Hey, what's happening?
What's good?
Another episode.
We're here.
We're here.
Yes, sir. Why do we look like news reporters right now?
I don't know, bro. We got papers.
papers.
We got something good for y'all today.
We got an upgrade. We got some papers.
So welcome to episode 3.
Episode 3?
Yes,
This is episode 5.
5?
Yeah.
Dang, it's 5.
This is episode 5
I'm
already.
off. Inside the silo. That's what happens when you're working.
Yeah, for sure.
It's episode 5?
Episode 5,
Dang.
man. Can you believe it?
What's up, bro?
What's going on, bro?
Nothing. How was your day?
It's good. Got a workout in. We got my Poppy. Shout out to Poppy. They just got bought by Pepsi. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see
So
that.
I have to enjoy the last ones before they get all these other
Ingredients
things that they put in them. Yeah. So
Dang.
I'm enjoying the last few that I have.
Now, I wonder why Pepsi bought Poppy.
Because
I wonder what Poppy sells
Poppy's
is.
popping.
Yeah.
Nah, these are good.
I bet
They're
you they
going in.
booming in the market.
It has apple cider vinegar. There you got the prebiotics. They're good for you.
Hey, for those who don't know, we are businessmen too. We like keeping up with the market and like things that's going on in the stocks and in crypto too, just to give you a heads up.
Yes, sir.
But we got a great episode for everybody out there today. And the reason why this episode is great is because some of y'all, maybe you want to know these statistics, this information. Maybe you want to find out like why you are the way you are or anything like that. But here's what we're going to talk about today. Oh, and it's based off of what's happened recently within like the past week or so. It's based off of this, and we're going to tell you. So today we're going to talk about the father's involvement and respectfulness. Why it's important for fathers to be involved in their sons' lives and how respectfulness helps with that. So the reason why we're talking about this today, Hiram, is there's a guy named Anthony Mackie. He's the new Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the movie?
I haven't seen it yet.
Hey man, we're gonna see the movie,
we
bro.
gotta see it.
We're gonna see the movie. And then we're gonna have you on one day.
Yep.
And we're gonna talk about this.
Shout out to Anthony.
We're just saying it, man. You gotta speak those things that are not as though they are.
That's
I'm telling you. But I think he's a great actor.
He is a good
I think
actor.
he's one of the
Yeah.
great, I'm not gonna say up and coming, but he's like in his prime.
Yeah, he's in his prime. He's actually a really funny guy. I don't know if you saw him on a Wendy Williams when he was talking about "Daddy, make me a sandwich." You never seen that before?
I did. I seen that. I seen the
You
clip.
seen the clip? Okay, cool. Yeah, nah, I think he has some really funny quirks about him. Like he says some really funny stuff, but it's true.
Yeah, he tells a good story.
Yeah, he's definitely a good storyteller.
So Anthony Mackie, if you don't know, he was on the Pivot podcast with
I forgot who's on that show.
I know who, Fred Taylor,
There you go.
the linebacker that played for the Dolphins. Man, I can't think of his name. And then Ryan Clark. Man, I can't believe Channing. I forgot his name. Channing Crowder, I think.
Okay,
Something like that.
I'm not too sure.
I watch the Pivot sometimes. So the Pivot had Anthony Mackie on because I believe Ryan Clark and Anthony Mackie are both from New Orleans, right? We have a friend
Shout
from
out
New
to
Orleans.
Eric Reed.
Yeah, shout out to Eric. He from North. Well, he from Baton Rouge, but
He's from the Rouge.
He from the Rouge. So they chit chat and they talking about life, how he's growing up and everything, but he was talking about his sons and how his sons, and he got some backlash and people talking about canceling him, like social media. Something. I'm like, why? He got some backlash for saying that his sons will always be respectful.
This doesn't make any sense.
No, zero. It does make sense. In America today, in the Western society today, it makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense
We
only
gonna-
if you're stupid and
Yeah.
you have no common sense.
I agree.
To be against what he's saying.
Look, he called you out. He called you out. So he said, my sons will always be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
They will always open the door for a lady.
Yep.
They always say, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And he said, that's just the way I raise my sons.
Mm-hmm.
And people are getting mad because he's raising his sons in masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, masculinity is like it's almost, I'm not gonna say it's dead in America.
Frowned upon.
It's frowned upon in America. It's like chivalry is dead.
That's for sure.
You know how many women want their door to be open?
Absolutely.
Every day.
Absolutely.
My wife love when I open up that car. I love it too. I say a booty.
Sometimes my wife be sitting and waiting until I open that door.
Like, come get it. She in the background saying, yeah, that's right. But it blows my mind that people in society don't like honor and respect. It's crazy. When you look at society today, and we're going to talk about it because we got some statistics for y'all. When you look at society today and you look at the young men today, they all say we about to crash out. They all crashing out over dumb stuff. Over shoes being stepped on.
Literally.
How you crashing out about shoes? How you crashing out about clothes? How you crashing out about a girlfriend that's not even your wife?
Listen.
See, we get in there. We gonna use the young terms, crashing out. That means being emotionally unstable and acting out of anger.
Facts.
Okay, that's crashing out.
Yep.
You're emotionally unstable and you act out of anger and you make a rational decision that may cost you your life. It may cost you prison time. It may cost you. It's going to cost you.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about it a little bit.
For sure. It's going to cost you relationships.
Money.
All these different things. It's a shame. But I mean, I guess let's start off with the Anthony Mackie thing.
Yeah.
So people are straight up hating on Anthony Mackie for making the comments that he's raising his sons to be respectful, to have chivalry. Let's make it make sense. Why? Like, what's the point? Like, seriously, what's the point of not raising a young man to do this? Now, we could talk about this. We got sons, right?
We got sons.
I got one son. I got one on the way. So I technically have two sons. Marlon has a son. And not only that, we're around other fathers that have sons.
Yeah.
My goal is to raise my sons the way that my father raised me and everything better. You feel me? Like, my dad raised me to hold doors. My dad raised me to be respectful towards women.
Yeah.
That is why I have a great marriage today, because I'm respectful towards my wife. There's certain things that we need to do towards women and show that respect. Not only that, but like, how about a yes, sir, or no, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Like, I be saying yes, ma'am to my wife out of respect, and she's my wife.
Yeah.
Right?
It comes natural too.
And I feel like here in Texas, like where we live, it's so easy. Cause that's part of the culture, Southern hospitality. We have that so easy. But like whenever we travel to the East Coast, like you go to Florida, it's not the same. Like certain parts of Florida. If you go to California, you go to New York, it's not really like that. Don't call me sir. You know how many times I've heard that in corporate America? Don't call me sir. They don't want to be called sir because they feel like it's old or it's weird. I don't understand.
Well, a friend of mine told me this. I guess in business, like if you call a man sir, it kind of shows that they are superior over you. And to be honest, man, if you go to another country, let's say China or Japan, man, you better learn how to honor your
100%.
elders.
100%.
You better learn how to honor your parents.
Yep.
Honor's big.
Yep. I mean, we could talk about that for a minute. Well, people in Japan, there's a statistic. We don't actually have it on the paper, but I know this one because I remember reading it. People in Japan live longer. And one of the things I know about Japan is that they actually really focus on honor of people, but also elders especially.
Yes.
But man, like, for example, one of my clients, I work in cybersecurity. One of my clients is a Japanese bank. Mm-hmm. And one thing you'll notice, though, even though I'm not Japanese, they still will add terms of respect when they address me with my name. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important to have respect, but man, the U.S. has been stripped of that.
Stripped.
Like, think about government. We could talk about this for a minute. Do you think the left respects Donald Trump at all?
No. Zero.
And let me say this: the right didn't respect Joe Biden much either when he was in office, because they were saying some crazy things. I mean, no offense to Mr. Donald Trump, but he was calling Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. So like,
but it was he called him Sleepy Joe because he was literally Sleepy Joe.
But what I'm saying is, like, even though Like you go back 20 years, we still had this level of respect when we talked about certain people in power and authority. So I'm not saying it's wrong to call Sleepy Joe, because he was definitely Sleepy Joe.
Sleeping, man. Joe was knocked.
But the point is, like, how bad we've gotten when it comes to respect is crazy. And if we don't teach our sons that, dude, think about our country 20 years from now. If we don't teach our sons how to respect people, and especially women, 20 years from now, this country is going to hell.
Fathers, you are raising the next generation. You are raising the next leaders. You are raising the next great minds. You are raising the next men that will lead not only your grandchildren, but your great-grandchildren and their great-grandchildren, and raising this nation. It takes people to build a nation. And if you want your nation to be great, honor and respect must be a firm foundation. So
look, we can get biblical if you want. We can get historical if you want.
Yeah, we can go any kind of way with this.
When we think about history, we think about the fall of nations. Part of it was there were certain things, standards that weren't held. They kind of deviated away from the way of doing things. And because of that, the nations crumbled. I mean, we could talk about Israel. We could talk about Rome. We could talk about anyone, really.
Yeah.
And you see the crumbling because of the deviation. So without getting too deep into it, I just think about us as a country.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like our country, I feel like has been in a decent place since about the 70s, I would say. We started to come into a lighter place. Now, we were going through a lot still, right? There was still lingering wars here and there. There was a lot of turmoil in the world in general.
Yeah.
But like we were coming out of a place historically. So you notice that families were a big focus like before World War II. And then you come out of World War II and families are still very much important. But something happened. Like there was a big shift I would say happened when internet came, like 80s, 90s, the early 2000s. A big shift happened and the family dynamic has shifted. Divorce rates have skyrocketed. You look at, like, I don't got the statistics right here, but tell me that in the 70s, there were as many divorced people as there are today. More marriages end up in divorce than don't end up in divorce today.
Yeah,
so we know that, like,
that's because marriage, okay. I mean, there's a lot of things. You can name it. You can talk about people not being happy in their marriage, people just getting married just to be married. People are getting married and trying to keep their family together when you just happen to sleep around and have a kid. Like true. There's so many, it's so many things, issues, but I think the biggest thing is fathers not being in the home.
Yeah. I mean, we got a lot of stats on that, so we can definitely talk about that for sure.
I think that's it.
That's a big part of why our country is struggling, not having fathers in the home. And I think that we started to see a big change, like I was mentioning, in the 70s, moving forward to the 80s and 90s, we start to see some changes in the family dynamic.
Yeah.
Like me personally, right? Thank God my dad was always in my life.
90s
my parents
baby.
got divorced. Yeah. My parents got divorced when I was about 12, 13. And so my dad's no longer in the house. And that's when I start wilding out. Granted, he's still in my life, but he's not there to watch me and hold me accountable. Right. So I'm bugging out. I'm wilding out. I'm living my best life. But I know that if my dad was in the home, man, I would have lived such a different lifestyle. And I'm grateful because my dad, like, he really instilled some good values into me. My grandfather did too, for sure. But man, like, to hold me accountable to them as a young man without their presence, I struggled. I failed.
Yo, so you just alluded to something that was big. You said without their presence. Can you elaborate on the importance of being a father, but not only a father, a leader in your home, in what a father's just the father's mere presence does?
I mean, like, my son is 1, he's almost 2. And when I come home, everything changes. I can tell that my son knows who's home, and he knows that there is a certain level of reaction to his actions because I'm now here.
Yeah.
And that doesn't leave when you get older. So you're 1, you're 10, you're 15, it doesn't matter. If daddy's home, I have to be mindful of how I'm acting. If I disrespect mom, I already know it's not a good thing for me. If I disrespect mom when daddy's not here, I know it's going to be a little bit of a better outcome. But if daddy's here when I disrespect mom, it's not going to be a good day for me. It's the same thing in general. Like, man, as you get older, you know that making the wrong decisions when your dad is present is definitely not a good idea, because you're going to get the certain kind of discipline and accountability that you wouldn't from a mother. It only comes from a father.
It comes from the father, because the mother her natural reaction is to nurture. Her natural reaction is to like help. And it makes me think, like, I remember seeing a video of a little boy wilding out. He didn't want to go to bed. You probably seen it on Instagram. I love that video. The boy was bugging, and the mom is trying to get the little kid to go to sleep, and he wouldn't. His father stood up and told him to be quiet and lay down. The boy went stiff, like, and it was literally his mere presence that changed the entire atmosphere.
That's right.
And they say that kids are 83% more likely to act out when their mothers are at home, but it reduces tremendously as soon as the father steps in.
Absolutely. It's silly because, like, I remember I've seen that video many times, but there's certain versions of that video depending on where you watch it, and the comments will be like, oh, you know that kid's being abused by the dad because look how different he acts when the dad comes in. I'm just like, whoever's commenting something like that doesn't, first of all, they're probably not a parent. And they don't understand the dynamic that God has created in a father and in a mother. Like, as a father, our voices are deeper. That's already scarier as it is.
Okay? There's a reason why our voices was made that way.
Absolutely. Like, when I speak in a tone that is assertive, it is much different than a tone that my wife speaks when she's assertive. That has more influence with my children. Not to say that my wife can't influence our children. Absolutely she can. But man, that video right there is one of my favorite videos that I've ever seen on social media.
I even seen a video today. This kid, it was 2 women. Maybe it was a mother and an auntie. I don't know. But the kid was not listening. And he kicked his mother's face.
Oh, no.
And then the auntie or the second woman came in and he kicked her face too. He just like lifted his leg up and they was like, you're in timeout. You're in timeout. And at the end of it, it was talking about getting that belt. But the whole premise is this. If you don't here's another. This is why, see, nowadays, disciplining your children is called abuse.
Yeah, times have changed.
I
don't know who changed the times, but times have changed.
Discipline? Oh, you don't need to discipline your child. This and that. Okay, here's something I heard, and maybe you've heard it too. If you don't discipline your child, the world will. And the world's discipline hurts.
Yes.
The world discipline will break you down. The world discipline will put you in a hole. The world discipline will take you to incarceration. The world discipline will take you to suicide. The world discipline will put you where you don't want to be and where you don't need to be.
Yes.
That's I've learned that from experience. So, I was looking. I'm gonna share some things. So I was looking.
While you pull those statistics up, like, you're making me think about how in school, our parents used to get hit with a paddle in school.
For sure.
When we were children, getting whooped with anything was normal. I mean, I grew up with everything. Sandal, a belt, switch, whatever. I got hit with it. And it wasn't a thing of like my parents were abusing me or they were angry. No, they needed to teach me, man, I got to be disciplined. I have to learn how to respect. And let me tell you something right now. Tell me you've never seen a young boy disrespect his parents in public, like at Walmart or at the mall.
Oh, for sure.
It happens all the time now.
All the time.
Man, parents telling their kids, hey, come on, let's go. And the kid's like, no. And I'm talking about from a little age at like 2 or 3, already telling the parents no and not following instructions. you better believe if you're in my house, you're following instructions.
Oh, look.
Because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for that person. So times have changed, and I think this is why the world condones not having respect, and that's why they're blasting Anthony Mackie, because they're seeing it as, oh no, don't discipline the child, don't spank him, spare the rod, spoil the child.
Spoil the child. Make him soft. Make your child not want to do anything. Make your child become. If you don't discipline, they'll become lazy.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll have a weak mindset, and a boy that grows up with a weak mindset becomes a weak man, and a weak man is a dangerous man. He's a danger to society. He's a danger to his family. He's a danger to his friends. He's a danger at work because you don't know what he's thinking. He can erupt at any single day, at any single moment. Man, you got to discipline your children. If you don't do it, if you don't discipline your sons are going to be the ones that end up going into a freaking school or a church and shooting up the place.
Right, unfortunately, which is terrible.
That's what you see. You saw that at Uvalde High School.
Yeah.
I think maybe last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Where a kid walked into a grade school.
Yeah, grade school.
A high schooler and shot up the place.
Well, you know, I lived down the street from Parkland. When that happened, it was literally like 5 minutes from me.
Really?
Yeah. So like I literally got to see the aftermath, and it was devastating. And it's because of what we're talking about right now. Man, we have to raise our boys to become men, and we have to start early. We need to teach them how to be men from a young age, right? You know, there's something I think Anthony might have said this on the podcast, or it was maybe another video, but he was talking about how when he leaves the house,
that
was Anthony. That was Anthony. He's like, when I leave the house, they're now the men of the house. I don't care if they're 2-year-olds or 5-year-olds. They're the men of the house. So you make sure the doors are locked. You make sure everybody in this house is protected while I'm gone.
Bro, that was fantastic. I loved when he said that.
I loved when he said that.
That was fantastic because guess what I do every night? Mm-hmm. Everybody goes to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Maybe this is you. Maybe I don't know. But I'm weird.
Yes.
I'll lock every door.
100%.
And then I'll go back and check to see if it was locked after I just locked it. Just 100%. To make sure. In that pistol next to me.
Listen, and
stop playing with me.
I be getting on my wife too. I'm like, babe, did you make sure the door's locked? If I'm not home, I'll be like, did you close the garage? Did you lock the door? 100%. Because this is our responsibility as men, right?
Yes.
This is our job. We're supposed to protect. And guess what? We're not always going to be there because as men, we got to work. So we better teach our sons to do that. So guess what? When they're older and they have their own families, they're already wired to do the same exact thing.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that you just said that. They're already wired. Mm-hmm. You don't rise to the level of training. You fall to the level of training that you have. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So if you wire your children, your sons, the way they should go, when they leave their father's home, their ways will not depart from them.
That's right.
That means the training won't leave. They'll have the training stored up in them.
Yep.
It's like treasure to them. So I don't get it. But you know what? I looked up some things.
Let's do it.
I want to share some. I was sharing this with you
for sure.
Before we started. And I was like, man, I want to know what the father's involvement in how that is tied to respectfulness. And here's one thing. It says sons who have strong relationships with their fathers tend to display better emotional regulation. Mm-hmm. That's key because we live in that's key because we live in a world where everybody's talking about mental health, having emotional regulation.
That's good.
Showing greater respect for authority figures and peers. 70% of boys with involved fathers that are in their children's life, report higher levels of respect towards teachers, coaches, and peers. This is from the U.S. Department of Education. So think about this, emotional regulation. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Being able to manage your emotions as a young, let's say young boy, young man.
I mean, look, that's part of what happens with these shootings. You have young boys who don't know how to manage their emotions. So, we have to be able to teach that from a young age. Somebody once told me when I was in marriage counseling, they said, Hyram, as the man, you're in control of the temperature in your house.
Yes.
And ever since I heard that, I was like, okay, that means it's not up to anybody else except for me as the man of the house to make sure that it's not too hot or too cold. I'm the thermostat. I got to make sure that my emotions are in check.
You heard him.
So that things don't get too hot or too cold. So listen, that's literally it. So when my wife is flustered and maybe she's not able to contain herself or control herself emotionally, because literally the Bible says women are the weaker vessel in the sense that they are more emotional. We're wired differently. I'm not saying that she's less than because she's more emotional. Yes. No, we're just wired differently. I can say this. My wife's a lot smarter than me, okay? So, but with that said, man, that's our responsibility as men. And so if we learn that as young boys, how much better are we going to be when we get older?
Yeah, and your children, especially when they're little, their first form of education is by sight. Mm-hmm. They're watching. They are, lack of better words, they're imitating.
Yes.
They're seeing how you respond.
Yes.
They're seeing how you react. Mm-hmm. They're seeing how you move in your own home. Remember, it was Simba's kingdom too, but Mufasa had it first. Mm-hmm. He was just following what his father did.
Man, that's good.
You see that? So you can't take the king, you can't take the masculinity from a boy whose father is masculine and is being taught to be masculine. But you know who's trying to take it away? Society, it's the government.
Mm-hmm.
And the left, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, now you got to say it how it is.
The left, thinking that it's okay for boys to go in little girls' bathrooms, we talked about it. That whole Joanna man. Why you? Even Big Mama. Martin played Big Mama House.
Man, we got a lot.
All that foolishness. Like, yo, who wants to be? It doesn't make sense to me. I'm just saying, it doesn't make sense to me why a man would want to compete against a woman.
Yeah. Or why a man would want to become a woman. I mean, that's a whole nother story, but...
Bro, you can't get no satisfaction out of competing against a woman.
Yeah.
Zero satisfaction. You get satisfaction competing against men. When you're in the weight room and you know some men are like that. I'm like that, man. I see some... That's just me.
Yeah.
I see, like, okay, I got a good story. Last weekend, Saturday, I know the dude had to be doing the same thing. You know, he had the barbell, you know, and Buddy had like 60s. Mm-hmm. And I had 50s. I just hit the 50s. Then I went and grabbed the 70s. So I grabbed the 70s. Boom. I was just hitting them. And then he went and got the 80s. I said,
okay.
Okay. Let me see how much you got. He got about 10 of them. I said, okay, let me go get the 80s. So he did 10. I did about 12, 13 just to let him know.
Stop.
So he wanted to go get the 90s.
Stop.
I said, all right, I'm going to go get them 100s.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, I did about 7 reps and I put it down. But you know, what I'm saying is
that testosterone.
That's what it is. Like you have a natural
100%
thing to compete with men.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? And it could be fun too.
Yeah, of course.
But society's trying to strip that.
Yes, 100%.
Right? It's trying to strip the masculinity and they're trying to start it off with the boys. And look, man, I'm not for that. I don't stand with that.
Honestly, one of the things I enjoy most is working out with other men that are stronger than me because it helps to elevate me.
Boom.
And help me to lift more weight. No. So when I was lifting, for example, with Kant was over here benching like literally easy 505. We were working out with Stanley Mapunga, who played in the NFL. Dude was benching mad weight, easy, 385, 405.
Killing it.
And I'm here benching, 155, 175. And listen, it only took 3 months to get my bench to 315. That's not natural to go from a 155 to 315 in 3 months. That takes a lot of time. But that testosterone and being with other men, that competitive edge, man, you know what we would do? This is what we would do. We would put Mike Rashid, we would put Simeon Penn on TV while we were working out. These are big dudes that lift like 600 pounds, 700 pounds easy.
Yeah, Mike Rashid strong.
And we'll watch them while we're working out. And literally in our minds, we're thinking that same exact thought. I'm a man, and I'm not going to let this other man outwork me. I'm going to work just as hard as him.
Just as hard.
There's something about being a man, something about making sure that we instill this into our children And so, yeah, I mean, the points that you bring up are extremely valid. We have to have that emotional mindset when it comes to men in sports. I think that'll help us to excel in life, not in a way that crushes or puts down other people, though.
Yeah,
like especially in the corporate world, you don't want to put down other people. But I will say, I'm a seller, and I'm gonna tell you this: I'm gonna work to outsell every single person. I'm gonna equip myself with every single skill that I need to be the best seller possible. It's not really just for the other people.
All right, so let's go ahead and look. We're gonna go into some more of these stats. There's some good ones because we got to give you the good stuff, and then some not so good ones. So I was just looking at this one right here. This is fantastic. Impact of disciplinary practices. How about this? Boys whose fathers participate in setting rules and discipline are 70% more likely to respect rules and authority figures than those whose fathers are uninvolved. That's from the National Institute for Child and Family Development. It also says this: sons raised in a household with consistent discipline and positive reinforcement are more likely to show respect for both parents and other adults in society. Studies show that discipline provide both parents in a balanced or non-punitive way keys to children learning to respect others. How about this? Sons raised in homes with two parents who model respect, keyword, who model respect, are more likely to grow up to be respectful adults. Why? Because they're imitating what they see.
Absolutely.
In their own relationships and careers. My bro just talked about it. He respects his wife, right? Because he saw that growing up. Mm-hmm. Studies show that sons with good family role models, like a grandfather, are more likely to respect their partners, co-workers, and friends as adults, demonstrating the respect learned in youth continued in adulthood. Here's another one. That's from National Fatherhood Initiative. Here's another one. Boys raised in healthy two-parent homes where both parents are involved in children learning are more likely to have strong personal relationships later in life, marked by mutual respect and shared decision making. 60% of men who grow up with both parents report better relationship satisfaction of men who grew up with both relationship satisfaction and higher respect for their partners. How about this? Sons who grow up with involved fathers are less likely to engage in violent or disrespectful behaviors. Violent, you know why? Because their emotions are regulated in the right way, right? So if somebody step on your shoes, let's talk about your white Air Forces, you just ain't gonna crash out, right? According to studies, 75% of incarcerated juveniles come from fatherless homes. Hyram's going to touch on some of that stuff, suggesting that boys who do not learn respect for authority often face legal troubles later. Boys raised with involved fathers are 3 times more likely to report lower levels of aggression and are less likely to engage in antisocial behavior or violence compared to their peers from fatherless homes. National Institute of Justice. And the reason why I'm reading that one is because people think lower levels of aggression. No, we all have aggression. You just need to know how to use it. You need to know how to channel it. You just like, if you're going to play football, you need aggression. If you're going to box, you need aggression.
For sure.
Right? If you in sales, you need persuasive aggression, right? Yeah. All right, here's some cultural statistics. In cultures where fatherhood and respect for elders are emphasized, boys are more likely to grow up demonstrating respect for authority and tradition. Studies indicate that in cultures with strong patriarchal family structures or high father involvement, boys are raised to value respect for authority figures, including teachers, police officers, community leaders, coaches, pastors, right? In countries with higher rates of father involvement, such as Sweden and Japan, you spoke on Japan earlier, children are more likely to respect authority and social norms. Boys in these countries tend to report higher levels of respect for elders in societal rules. Yes. That comes from Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So those are just a few. I mean, I have so much more, but Even in the gender roles, there's impact in fatherless homes and behaviors. Like sons from fatherless homes have 2.5 times more likely to engage in disrespectful or aggressive behaviors, including bullying, right? Why your kid bullying, defiance, aggression toward teachers. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something about bullying. Let me say something about bullying. Mm-hmm. Some people think bullying bad. Bullying is bad, but sometimes you may not need some bullying because kids need bullies so they can stand up to them and learn how to fight back. Yeah. I'm not opposed to bullying because if you bully my son, I'm going to tell him to knock you out. That's just me.
Yeah.
So here's the last one I'll read. Boys raised without fathers are more likely to exhibit high levels of disrespect toward authority figures, with 85% of incarcerated youth coming from fatherless homes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
On that note, we talked about Japan earlier. I have some really good statistics as well. In Japan, the rate of fatherless homes is much lower, with only about 10% of children living without a father.
Dang.
Italy and Spain, and it's below 15% in Italy and Spain.
Wow.
Now listen to this.
That's incredible.
Yes. Listen to this. In the United States of America, the fatherlessness rate in the USA, African American, 64%. Hispanic and Latino, 40 to 50%.
So y'all got us beat.
White, no. African Americans got us. African Americans got us beat. White, 25 to 30%. Now listen to this: risk of incarceration for fatherless boys. African American, 2 to 3 times more likely.
Yeah.
Hispanics, higher risk than two-parent homes, and white, 1.5 to 2 times more likely to be incarcerated. Crazy.
That's a dang.
It's sad. And then on that note, right? Studies suggest that boys who grew up without fathers, are more likely to be incarcerated compared to those raised in two-parent homes. For instance, 70% of young men in prison grew up in fatherless homes, according to some reports. Hey. And according to the U.S. Department of Justice, young men who have grown up in fatherless homes are 2 to 3 times more likely to be incarcerated than those raised in two-parent households. Having a father in the household is pivotal. It's pivotal.
Clearly.
You know who talked a lot about this during their campaigning? J.D. Vance talked a lot about this during his campaigning.
He did. You're right.
I remember him spending time talking about the importance of fathers in the home, and it makes such a huge difference. This is why we need fathers in the lives of their sons, raising these men to be real, respectful, good young men.
Let me ask you this. I can only imagine what Isaiah's thinking and how he feels on the inside when you encourage him. Mm-hmm. It must feel so good to be encouraged by your father.
Yeah.
Kids, I always say this, man, I want to be my kid's superhero. Mm-hmm. They don't have to look far.
Yeah, for sure.
They can look right at, my kids call me Baba. Mm-hmm. They can look right at me.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a great feeling to think that my son looks at me like his superhero. It's funny. I was watching a video just yesterday. And I don't know if you ever saw this. It was Tom Brady giving a speech. Mm-hmm. I think it was like an MVP speech or when they won a championship. And somebody asked him, a reporter asked him, who's his hero in his life? Yeah. And he said, he sat there and he literally started tearing up and he's like, my dad.
Oh, for sure.
My dad. Ain't nobody like my dad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, as a young boy, you look up to your father and most likely you become your father. Mm-hmm. Man, there are so many things that I do today because of the things that I saw my dad do.
1,000%.
Man, it is crazy to think that when I was a young boy, and you know my story because I just told it the other day, I wanted to be just like my dad. You know what they called me growing up? My dad Jr. That's what they called me growing up.
My dad Jr.
Like my dad's name is Edwin, so they would call me Edwin Jr. or Huracan Jr. because literally I wanted to be just like my dad. I wanted to be on the radio just like him. I wanted to be popular just like him, well known. I wanted to do the things that he did. I saw him doing. I wanted to drive cars like I saw him drive cars. All that. And you look at the good things, but you also pick up the little things. So the way that you see him treat your family members, how all these little characteristics that are good, you pick them up. They're important too, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the bad ones, those are the ones that we have to learn how to filter out and also grow out of, because we do pick them up too. We pick up the bad things too.
Absolutely. I mean, you imitate what you see.
You imitate what you see.
You know, and one of the greatest things my father has ever taught me, and I will always live by this. He's always taught me, son, whatever you do, it doesn't matter if you using a toothbrush to clean the floor. Do it your best. And I've always given my absolute best to everything I do.
Yeah.
Because I've seen him wake up early, 2:45 in the morning, and go to work. Real men.
Yes.
Come home. Love on his wife. Love on his 3 sons, because I'm the youngest of 3. Get beat down by the world. Wake up and do it all over again.
Yeah. Do you remember when you were a kid and your dad would sit you down, or you and your brothers down, and have like one of those conversations like, son, I need to teach you this, or I want to teach you something? You remember that when you were a kid?
That's a great question.
And maybe they were spontaneous, like random, because that's how it was for me.
Those conversations revolved around sports. That's where those conversations came for me. When we
never did something really bad, and your dad basically came.
Man, my dad just beat the mess out of me.
Instead of beating you, he just sat down with you and he was like, "Son, this is why we don't do this, or this is why."
Nah.
One day you'll understand. No, I never had those moments.
Nah, it was laid a smack down.
I only had one or two of
later.
those. I only had one of those two. Like when I was supposed to get beat, I only had one or two of those where I didn't get beat and I got a lesson instead.
And a beating is like, that's what we said back in the day.
Yeah.
We ain't talking about beating kids.
Nah,
but that's the lingo back in the 90s.
We got beat back in the day.
Beat down.
But we got beat down,
Beat down with any and everything.
I remember, man, you remember those like fuzzy carpets, like sometimes they're still used, like in the front door, like when you're kind of like just cleaning off your shoe.
Yeah,
man, I used to kneel on those for like 20 minutes when I was a kid. When I get in trouble,
I bet your knees was cherry red.
Listen, man, they hurt too. Sometimes my parents would make me kneel for 20 minutes in a corner looking at a wall, because they wanted to teach me discipline. So it wasn't like I was getting abused or anything, but hey, 20 minutes kneeling as a child, like when you're like 8, 9, you're going to learn real quick that you need to man up and do the right thing instead of doing the wrong thing.
Look, man, I used to do all kinds of bad stuff. I broke windows. I climbed on a china cabinet and broke all the china in all the cabinets. I broke
one of my dad's statues.
Bro, for a Snickers bar. That's how bad I loved candy, bro.
Oh, man.
I climbed this, and it had to be like at least 8 feet in the air.
No, Marlon.
It was a 10-foot ceiling, 8 feet in the air, and I climbed this shelf like it was no tomorrow. And my pops would always put because I used to get a Snickers bar. He'll put that Snickers bar, the extra one, at the top on the bowl. I was short. I couldn't reach it. And I said, man, forget it. I'm about to get it today.
Oh, man.
Man, I climbed that joker. And I got to the top, and I got the Snickers bar, and it fell back down on me like this. And you can see it's like in slow motion. Like you ever seen Inception when they're falling down into the water?
Oh, yes. Oh, no.
Everything broke. And here's the worst part. He wasn't even home.
Oh, no.
So you couldn't get beat down right in the moment. You had to wait.
Oh, man.
That
anticipation.
And you can't clean nothing up because they just going to know where's the stuff at.
Exactly.
And if you lie, you're going to make it worse.
Man.
So I had to wait for it. Man, sweating like I almost thought about running away that day.
Nah, for sure. When something like that happens, you think about running away.
Thought about running away.
The anticipation, bro. That build up is crazy.
But I'm gonna tell you what I learned. Hey, follow instructions. Don't be disobedient.
Man.
If you just do what I tell you to do, you're gonna get rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But me, I wanted, see, that's another thing. Yeah. That was my emotions acting out. Yes. I want what I want right now instead of being patient.
Yeah, for sure.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think we live in a microwave society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kids want it right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? You can get it right now, but sometimes it takes patience. Discipline. And discipline is not a one-day thing. It's an everyday thing. Mm-hmm. Right? I think a lot of people talk about motivation and discipline. To rather have discipline over motivation. Discipline trumps motivation every day because you're not going to be. I'm not motivated every day, but discipline is one of my key 100%. Things for sure.
That's why, I guess, to wrap all this up, really, that's the whole point. To teach our children, our sons, to be disciplined and to be respectful and strong, good young men that will contribute to our society in a good way. Man, like today, it's funny. I was walking into the gym and there was a woman, but she was like far, but she was an older woman and she was far from the door and I was already at the door. But I thought in the back of my head, I'm not even kidding you, Marlon. I thought in the back of my head, man, I should still hold the door and just wait because that's a woman that's coming in and she's older. I should have enough respect. So I waited like a good 15 seconds holding that door to make sure she can get in. And then another older man came right behind her as well.
And they said, what?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, that goes such a long way. But it just took me 10 seconds to do something nice for somebody else.
Yeah, a little bit of inconvenience.
And a little bit of inconvenience for me to contribute to society in a way that's going to impact the future. Listen, those things right there, other people see them and they're like, man, I got to do better now. So yeah, I always look at it as how am I making sure that I'm honoring my parents with the things that they've taught me and making sure I'm contributing to a society that I want to be a part of, that I want my children to be a part of. Because guess what? If I have a daughter one day, which I hope I do, and I do have goddaughters, right? I'm blessed with 2 goddaughters. Man, with my goddaughters, 20 years from now, I don't want them, or actually let's just say 80 years from now, when they're 80 and they're older, I hope that there's men holding the doors for them. I hope that there's men opening doors for them, making sure that they can get to their seat. If they're on a bus or public transportation, that they're somewhere where there will be men that will stand up and let them sit down. When they're pregnant one day, I also hope that they'll have enough men respecting them to make sure that they're helping them through that time of pregnancy. Those are all things that I want to make sure I teach my sons, and I hope that all the fathers out there are teaching their sons.
That's good, Hyram. You make a great statement with that.
Because we can't just think about our sons. We got to think about our daughters
that's too. A great. You making me think, because I'm over here just listening, and you making me think like if you build up sons in this way right now, then we won't have a society. And I'm not shunning women, but we won't have a society of women feeling like they have to be men. They'll walk in what they call their femininity, or whatever it's called. I think that's what it's called.
That's right.
They would walk in their true femininity, right? And they wouldn't have to worry about being men. A lot of women have to be men.
Yeah.
They think they have to play both roles.
Yes.
Because of the fatherlessness in homes. And
exactly.
Things of that. A matter of fact, this thing... Bro, I'm seeing there's more. Back in the day, was it more male teachers or female teachers? I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I'm trying to think about when I grew up. Did I have more male teachers or female teachers?
I will say, like, elementary school, all my teachers were women. All of them were women. I had no male teachers in elementary school.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Middle school, I started getting a few male teachers. High school, it was a good mixture.
Yeah, high school was a good mixture.
Yeah.
High school was a good mixture. It'd be weird for the males. I'm just saying.
In elementary school?
I'm just saying, like, if you're a kindergarten teacher as a man, I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes.
Man, we're gonna wrap it up. I think to say all that to say this. Anthony Mackie, we're with you.
Yep.
We with you. Keep raising them boys to be respectful. Keep raising them boys to be honorable. Keep raising them boys to hold those doors open for their mama and for women. And with that, we out.
Amen.